And we have to focus on what we can do here for our community and for the larger society in order to fulfill what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to fulfill. So we have to understand our country. We have to understand our people. We have to understand where we're living. We cannot be here 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and we're still hearing Al Jazeera or hearing whatever is happening overseas, and our minds are completely somewhere else. How about poverty that is happening in America? Do you think that Allah will not ask you about that? Allah will only ask us about some people dying somewhere else and will not ask us about people in our own community, whether Muslim or not, who are in that cold weather that we are in, are homeless in the street. You think when we stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the day of judgment, He will not ask us about that? We have a collective obligation to help reform and address the ills in our own backyard. That's what Islam was about. When the Prophet came, he was not just looking for what is good for the Muslim community, but he had a message for everybody. Oppression was not prevalent in the Muslim community, but it was number one in his priority, because it was prevalent in the society where he was. This is our society, and we have to act that way. We also have to realize that gradualism is important. Yeah, Islam is comprehensive, but that doesn't mean that we need to open everything one front all the time. Gradualism is needed, and that's how the Prophet approached Islam. Gradualism. Start from one step and go to the next. And I remember an incident that is well narrated in the history, Islamic history, of the very honorable and very just Khalifa Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who became governor at a very difficult time when there were so many problems in society. And so he started to reform and started to do good things in society. His son, who was very strong, very passionate about Islam, very motivated, came to his father and told him, "What are you doing? What type of reform are you doing? You have so many wrong things that are happening around you. You should bring out decrees one after the other to eliminate everything that's wrong." Umar ibn Abdul Aziz told his son, who out of good intention wanted to change everything bad overnight to something good. And he told him something very wise. He told him, "My son, people have accepted this bad holistically. I cannot come and eliminate it holistically. But what I will do is that every day, symbolically every day, I am going to eliminate one thing that is wrong and advocate for one thing that is right. Because I am afraid if I advocate for everything that is good all at once, that people are going to reject everything that is good all at once." That's the concept of gradualism. And we do that in our own personal life. If you have your son or your daughter, you find that they have so many problems, whatever, these very big problems. You start from the major ones and walk your way down. You don't say, "Well, I have 100 problems with my son, I'm going to address them all this month." You start from the bigger ones and then you move down. That just makes sense. And that is what the Prophet did, and that is what we need to do. It's also important to know as a principle that Islah, reform, needs to be accepted by the people. It cannot be enforced on the people. That is part of what Islam is about. If Allah mandates that religion and the belief in one God, which we believe is very important, the most important, that it cannot be enforced on people. When he says, "La ikraha fi ad-din," there can be no compulsion in religion. Islah has to be accepted by people. The good people have to make a case why this is the right way to go, and have to convince other people and hope that they would be convinced. If they are not convinced, then we've done our job. And then what happens to them is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But our job is to work as hard as we can to convince others to join us in this process. Another principle is that the process of Islah needs to be a unifying process. not a selective or elitist process. Everybody needs to participate in that. All elements in society needs to participate in that. Everybody has a role to participate in that. I remember some of the companions who were not as practicing as others. There is one companion, for example, who could not leave drinking. Subhanallah. Companion believed in Islam, saw Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but couldn't leave drinking. The Prophet did not shun him away and say he has no place in our community and we have no use of him. But he used to participate in things in society and even fight with the Muslims and participate in the battles, and he knew that this was a weakness and he might even get punished for it. And he was trying to work on himself to leave it. Everybody has a place. It needs to be a unifying process. Subhanallah, not only the Muslims who may be doing things that may not be, that are not appropriate from an Islamic perspective, even non-Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ put his hands in the hands of other people who are not Muslims in order to do good things in society. As soon as he came to Medina, he saw that Medina had people who were not Muslims. Had Jews and had even pagans and had other people. The Prophet did not say, all right, you are away and we are here, you do your thing, we do our thing. But he wrote the constitution of Medina that made everybody partner in Islah, in reform, even if they do not believe in Islam. There is room for everyone. Sometimes, unfortunately, and that comes sometimes out of a good intention. Because we love Allah so much, we expect everybody to be at that standard. And nobody can. We even know of ourselves that we cannot be at that standard. But a part of reforming our own self is to engage in the process of reform. The best way to reform ourselves or any other individual, whatever mistakes he or she has, is to engage in that process of cleansing and that process of reform. So reform needs to be unifying and include everybody. Not just those who are fully practicing. Not even just those who are Muslims. As long as we are all trying to achieve certain good goals in society. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ spoke very favorably of one treaty or agreement called Hilf al-Fudul, in which was with all pagans. But he said, by Allah, if I am called to participate in this treaty, I would. Why? Because it was a good treaty. It was advocating for good values. Advocating for values of justice in society. So that the people who are weak or poor are not oppressed by others. So we have to partner with everybody and use the process of reform to unify society rather than to divide people. You are this, I am this, he is that, and then we find ourselves within our own community or within the larger society. We have dozens of groups and dozens of ethnicities and dozens of categorizations, and then we can go nowhere together. That is not what Islam intends to be. Finally, and for the sake of time, we have to realize that the process of Islah has boundaries by which the ends don't justify the means. The ends don't justify the means. The ends are beautiful. We want to achieve reform and we want to do good things in society and we want to do many beautiful things, but those ends don't justify the means. This is important because some people get overtaken by the fact that we have very good goals and then they may try to achieve these goals by many different means that are illegitimate or unapproved from an Islamic perspective. Like the person, for example, who might want to help the poor. Very noble cause. And then he goes and steals in order to help the poor. That is not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the ends of reform don't justify the means. It's like the person who wants to do something maybe good in society and then he commits violence and kills innocent people. In order to achieve these goals, no matter what the intention is, Allah also holds us accountable to doing things in the right way. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه.